Habituellement, dans les conférences, on parle beaucoup de storytelling. Beaucoup, beaucoup. Et dans le storytelling, les 3/4 des fois, c'est des fake stories. C'est des mecs qui s'inventent des succès ou des failures parce qu'il faut s'inventer des failures. Et ils vous racontent n'importe quoi pour essayer de toucher votre émotionnel. Le mec qui va rentrer sur scène, il va vous raconter une histoire. Par contre, cette histoire est authentique. Quand je dis authentique, c'est qu'il l'a vécu depuis 20 ans. So I do not the version in English. Usually, storytelling is about fake stories. Fake stories because people just invent stories, invent successes and failures to make it look smarter or better or more emotional. And the guy who's gonna come on stage will tell you a story, but this story is genuine. I'd like you to welcome the co-founder and CPO of OpenClassrooms, Mr. Mathieu Nebra.
Hi, everyone. Do you know who this is a picture of? Yeah, that's me 20 years ago when I was 13 years old. At that time, I could use internet for 1 hour every month. Yeah, that was a long time ago. And a month before this photo was taken, I was at a bookstore because I wanted to learn how to make a website. You know, as a kid, you like to play with Legos, you want to build stuff. So I had a computer at home, and I wanted to build stuff. I wanted to build a website. And yeah, the story goes, I couldn't find a book for a beginner like me. In fact, my story starts with a frustration. I was looking for a book for beginner, and I just couldn't find one. Each and every book on the back cover was marketed for IT professionals with at least 3 years of experience. And as for myself, I had minus 10 years of experience. So everything could have just stopped here. But I decided to get one of these books anyway. In fact, my parents offered me a book for Christmas, which is what you see in this picture. It's Christmas 1998, I think. And I read this book. And honestly, this book was awful. It was unnecessarily complicated. How could people like me learn with a book like that? It was really, really unfair. So I decided to make for myself what I would have liked to read. I decided that I would create a website to teach other beginners how to make a website. I called it Le Site du Zéro in French, because, well, if you want to become a coding hero, you have to start as a coding zero, right? And 20 years later, today, this website and this course are still alive. Now, I'm the co-founder of a company with 170 people, which has raised more than $70 million with offices in Paris, in London, and New York. Every month, 3 million people come to learn with us. The question is, what happened in between? That will be my story today. The story of OpenClassrooms, which I have divided into 3 phases, like the phases of my life and career. Childhood, teenage years, and adulthood. So let's start with the first phase of my story, which is childhood, roughly from 1999, 2000 to 2006. At this first phase, it was very much a personal project phase. I had no clear long-term goal of changing the world. And contrary to the myth of the visionary entrepreneur, I was not saying, I'm going to disrupt education. I was only 13. So all I knew is that I wanted to do something in the short term and for people I could relate with, my closest friends. So at that time, I had no clear mission. But if I were to summarize what I wanted to do, I would just say, I just want to do something cool to help my friends. And that's it, period. That's how the website looked back in the day, roughly 2000, 2002, under the name Le Site du Zéro. I wrote the first course on HTML, this one, which is still alive today. Updated, of course, but still alive. And then I created more courses on many other topics, like computer programming I was a fan of. But I thought this was not enough. I wanted people to be able, to communicate with each other, so they could learn together. So I launched the first forum around 2002. And it was really, really exciting. I was refreshing the page like a madman, hoping to see new messages. And believe me, getting the first messages felt like the biggest success of my life. Just 1, 2, 3 messages appearing on the forum, it was so great. And it's funny because one of the first forum users was a guy named Pierre. We started building things together because he was the guy always saying, this is bad, this could be improved, this could be improved. So I told him, come on, guy, help me, or just shut up. And yeah, we started working together. I didn't know that we were going to create a company together. At this stage of the story, there was clearly no product management, as you can imagine. It was just Pierre and I coding almost directly in production. That happened at the beginning, to be honest. And I continued to work on this website while I was still in high school. It worked quite well, but it was taking, a lot of my time on the side. I remember that one of my teachers even told me to stop this thing and, focus on school. Luckily, I didn't listen to her. But, at that time, I could have dropped. So, yeah, the website really took off when we launched a new version in 2005. This version enabled everyone to create a course. We were entering, this whole new promising world, the era of the Web 2.0, so everyone can participate. So before going any further, I'd like to sum up and give you 3 pieces of advice from this time, from this stage of the history. The first advice is solve a problem that is personal for you. It's much easier to have empathy for something that you can relate to. Second would be work on a small scale at first. Solve your problem for one person. Again, it's much easier to relate when you have one person in mind. In my case, it was myself. Like myself 3 months ago, I was talking to my old self, trying to explain to my old self. And third piece of advice would be start now. There is no point, really no point, in waiting for better times. That never happens. You will struggle. It's inevitable. Better to start failing now to begin learning even sooner. In 2007, the website was doing great. The traffic increased to 1 million users a month. They were learning and even sharing their own courses. And that's how it looked back then, more or less. Maybe some of you remember this version. Pierre and I, at that time, we were in different engineering schools. But we were still working on the project every day and every weekend. it was starting to take more and more of my time, actually. I remember, for instance, that during an internship, when I was in a company, I spent secretly 50% of the time working on my website and not for my internship. I don't know if people are doing that in my company today, but clearly I was doing that at the time. One of the oldest pictures when we created a company is this one, with our very, very first employees. In 2007, Pierre and I decided to go all in. Because we were on this project, we've been on this project from 1999 to 2007, and it was a personal project. There was no company, right? It was just a thing on the side. So, yeah, for all these reasons, just before graduating, Pierre and I decided to create the company in 2007. If I had a mission at that time, I would have said, I want to make a living out of my pet project. Just get money, right? And between 2007 and 2012, the company grew from the two of us to more or less 20 people. At that time, product management was still not a thing, but we had roughly 5, 7 developers, some of whom still work with us today, that you can see on this picture. You can see Pierre and myself behind on this picture. At that time, I was a CTO trying to handle priorities, and I had no training at all. It was, our teenage years, because we were definitely looking for our identity. We needed money, so we didn't really think about our business model. We started with what was the norm back then, which was advertisement. So we had free courses online, and we just put advertisement on the website. The very first deal we signed, it was with my own engineering school. I went to see my communications teacher at that time, and I was trying to get him to buy ads for the school. And do you know what he told me? He told me, no, get out. I don't want to talk to you. So he clearly refused. But, well, I went back 2 weeks later and managed to make him sign. And it was our first deal. So OpenClassrooms is also a story of persistence. It's actually one of our principles. Then we became a publisher. Yeah, we sold books at one point. And we sold books based on our online courses. So why did we do that? Clearly, it makes no sense. You have an online education product, and you're going to books. Well, it was because our users kept asking for that. So why not do it? They were asking, so we told them, OK, but you better buy these books, because it will cost us a lot of money. And it could have killed the company if people wouldn't have bought the first book on C programming that you can see on this picture. One anecdote, I remember that I had a BlackBerry at that time. And when we opened the sale for our first book, it started vibrating like crazy. I was with my parents in south of France, near Montpellier. And Pierre was staying late at the office with our developer, trying to push into production the sale of the book. And yeah, I didn't know it was just open. I knew it was going to happen in a few minutes, but I didn't know anything about it. And yeah, at some point, it started vibrating like crazy. And each vibration was because I received an email from PayPal telling me that we had a new buyer. So it was really as exciting as the first messages on the forum, except it was actual money. Ads and books allowed us to live for quite some time, many years. We made roughly 50% of our revenue on ads and 50% on selling books. We sold maybe 150,000 books by becoming a publisher. However, we felt that we weren't reaching our full potential. First, ads were distracting the users. And it wasn't the biggest issue even. Deep down, it was also distracting us from what we really wanted to do. We were starting to have a mission, even if it was not conscious or explicit. So, yeah, Ads were blocking people, preventing people from learning because it was on top, sometimes. And books were selling less and less because it was the end of the era of the books. We just arrived at the end of the books era. So after some great years, we pivoted. We progressively, not in one day, but we progressively stopped selling ads and books. And we started a whole new subscription model, offering course certificates for 20 euros a month that could let people differentiate themselves on the job market. So we did something kind of crazy and stupid, right? We had that amount of revenue on ads and books and 0 on a subscription model. And we said, well, we were going to decrease that on purpose, progressively, and start increasing a new model. A subscription model, but we didn't even know really what we were going to put in it at the very beginning. We just knew we wanted to have subscribers. And we also knew we didn't want to make the course paid for. So it was a double challenge. The courses have always been free of charge. They are still free of charge to this day. And yeah, we needed to find other creative ways to make money. So the course certificate was one of the first ideas we had. I've learned a lot from this stage, and again, I'd like to give you some pieces of advice. The first one would be, it's okay not to really know where you're going, as long as you keep doing what you're really good at. For me, it was creating courses for beginners. So I just continued creating courses for beginners. When I was stressed, I was creating a new course for beginners, and it continued to help people. Second, your company will have many lives. Be prepared to have different business models. And third one is, and I witnessed it, you can completely change your business model. It's really tough, believe me. But it can create massive value. If we had stayed, with ads and books, we would have done that, maybe that. But by starting a new subscription model and trying to reinvent ourselves, now we are much, much, much higher than we could have ever imagined. And now, adulthood. So 2016 to now. After several years, we decided that the courses, they were not enough. It was time to create a fully online school experience. But we were missing one important thing: diplomas. So we partnered with a traditional brick-and-mortar school. They let us give access to their diplomas. Yeah, that's possible. We have to pay them for that, of course. And when we started doing that, and advertising that people could get real diplomas fully online on OpenClassrooms, something important happened. Massive growth. It turned out that a diploma was something users had been expecting all along. That's OpenClassrooms today. Now that we were becoming a school, we needed to find a better name than Le Site du Zéro, because we couldn't put Le Site du Zéro on a diploma. Even if I love the name, we had to change at some point. So we opted, after some thinking, etc., for OpenClassrooms. Changing the name was a bit tough at first, but surprisingly, that feeling didn't last long. We all agreed it was time to move on. And from there, we grew to 50 employees, and then 100 quickly. Pierre and I, we knew that we had to really, define a mission now. If we wanted to keep all these people aligned together, we started really thinking, what had we been trying to do all these years? What is our identity? Then, we remembered an event that happened a few months before. President François Hollande was coming to our offices to give the first diplomas to the first students, the first real diplomas to the first students. The Secret Service was there, with snipers on the building, I'm not kidding, with dogs all around. It was very impressive. But surprisingly, that was not the most memorable moment that day. What really gave me goosebumps, was when one of the graduates decided to stand on a chair just after the president left. And he said, "Guys, I don't know if you realize it, but you have changed my life. Never stop what you're doing. It's so important. Never stop." So the mission came quite easily. We were making education accessible. That would be our company's mission from now on, and it wouldn't change. It's even written on the back of our T-shirt, so we don't forget. Having a mission helps us to make choices. It helps us to focus. For example, we refused to create private online courses because it was not making education accessible. It was just, getting money in the bank. Even if people sometimes came to us saying, "I have €1 million, I want to spend it in your company if you create some data science courses for our top-level management." And we told them, "No, thank you for your money. We don't want it. Actually, we want the courses to be accessible to everyone. So either you accept that we open it to everyone, even your competitors, or you just try to find another company. We can show you some companies that would be glad to do it." That's what a mission allowed us to do, to stand firm on our roots and to focus at important times. So I think you have to have a mission. Getting connected to the mission will allow you to go on and not quit when it's hard or stressful. And believe me, it can be hard and stressful. Today, we are 170 people, maybe 180. We raised more than $70 million in total. We made the biggest edtech fundraising in Europe. And we finally have product managers, which are in this room, I think. I can see them. Challenges are daily, just like in the early days. The challenges are just bigger. We still struggle, and we will always struggle. It's how you know you're doing something useful, something important. Also, I discovered that you never stop learning. Each year, I look back, and I'm amazed because I've learned so much in the past year. I've been saying that to myself for the past 20 years, and it shows no signs, really no signs, of slowing down. So, some people ask me, did you imagine that it would become what it is when you were 13 years old? No, of course not. How could I? I was 13. However, I think I already had a vision. I knew education could be more accessible to everyone. I never stopped believing in that. I truly think we can make education accessible. It's our North Star. It's our mission. Thank you.
I told you the story was incredible. Okay? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Really liked it. So we don't have a lot of questions, actually. Maybe because you also, people looking at you. But I have a few. So if you have questions, just go on.
Yeah, please.
Okay?
We are there
No
for that, so
problem.
you can ask questions now. Do not hesitate.
Minutes. We can do a karaoke instead. Whatever.
We can try.
So if people just want a diploma, why not create your own instead of paying one to a brick-and-mortar school?
Good question. So actually, it was 25 minutes presentation, so I did not explain everything about the status of Open Classrooms today. What I said was the first diploma was a partnership with a traditional brick-and-mortar school. Today, we also have our own diplomas, fully accredited by the French state, like any traditional bachelor or master's level diploma. So we know how to do that. We have this competency inside Open Classrooms. We have 2 people working full-time on recognition of diplomas. They're doing it in France. We have several diplomas recognized. And as we speak, we are applying to become recognized as a university in the UK and in the US. It's super long, super complex, super tedious, but creates massive value. So yeah, we have our own diplomas, and we also still partner sometimes with traditional brick-and-mortar schools. You'll see both of them.
Why did you go to the IFRE school if you had the ID of your CPO?
I had an idea of the website, yeah, but you just have to imagine I was in high school, I got my baccalaureate and all, and naturally what you do, what your parents want you to do is to pursue your studies. They want you to have a high-level diploma, they want you to have a nice CDI, a full-time job, safe, safe stuff. When I started my studies, I wasn't thinking about creating a company, honestly. The website was doing great. It turned out that many people in the school knew the website, so I was kind of famous. It was strange. But no, I really didn't think about creating a company at that time. It became even bigger when I was at the school, and I learned a lot at my school. So it was a good way for me to learn too. So no, I'm really glad I followed studies at my school, and that it somehow enabled me to launch a company.
Very clear. Do you hire PMs?
Yes. And okay. Please apply now.
Okay.
We really need PMs, yeah.
I'll send the job description in the commentary, okay?
And you can see on jobs.openclassrooms.com, or you'll know how to do it.
How is Open Classroom different than classical MOOCs?
Good question. So many people tend to ask me this question because they think about Open Classrooms like it was at the stage of Le CPO 0. They think it's only, free courses with a nice subscription model. Sometimes people pay, but we don't know. In fact, the main product of Open Classrooms today is not the course. It's what we call the pass. The pass is a collection of projects that students have to complete in order to get the diploma. And for each project, we associate courses that can help you to complete the project. We have a project-driven approach, which is quite different. So usually at a school, you go from course 1, course 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have an exam. At Open Classrooms, you start with project directly. So if you want to become a web developer or a product manager, we have a pass on how to become a product manager on Open Classrooms. The first project will be, hey, here, create a website. And usually the person does not know how to create a website, so you're like, are you crazy? What are you asking me that? I need the courses. And we tell them, yeah, but that's like in real life. Your boss will tell you, do that, and you don't know how to do that, right? So you go and you learn. That's how you learn how to learn. So we ask them, do this project, and they sometimes can do the project immediately, or we'll use some of the courses. The courses, again, are all free of charge on Open Classrooms. What's paid for is access to the projects, and when you have access to the projects, you are assigned to a mentor. So a web developer if you want to become a web developer, a project manager, a product manager if you want to become one. You get assigned to an experienced professional, and you have one-to-one weekly video conference sessions. So every week, you have to be near your computer, and your mentor, privately with you, just you, will ask you, what have you done this week? Where do you struggle? And how can I help you? And then try to help, try to unblock the student, and we'll tell to the student, OK, based on what I've seen from you, you can probably finish directly the project. And for another student, they adapt and say, you seem to have difficulties, go to course number 1 and course number 3. Courses are optional on OpenClassrooms. You can get a diploma without following a single course. What we care about are the projects, because the projects are your portfolio, and they prove the competencies. And that's what the jury, because there is a jury also at the end, will validate what you have done. Also, your sessions are recorded, so we can see how you have made progress. So it's a very new, innovative model, which is completely different from MOOCs. We use courses, but just as a library, somehow.
Very clear. I don't know if it's someone for Doctolib who actually asked that question, but companies like Doctolib are now helping a health system that showed its limits because it's managed by the French state. Do you do something that just to disrupt the Ministry of Education in a way?
So if I understand well, the question is how...
Doctolib, they help a health system that showed its limits because it's managed by the state.
Yeah.
In a way, you're making education accessible.
Yeah.
Through what you do and not through a classical school.
Yeah, okay. So are we in conflict or maybe...
Or do you plan to help the minister to do something better?
So we talk with them a lot, obviously, because we need to understand each other. And I don't want to bother you with the details, but there are 2 types of diplomas from the Ministry of Education and from the Ministry of Labor. And most of the schools in France depend on the Ministry of Labor, because the diploma has to prove that students will find a job. We are not recognized if students don't find a job. So we have to prove the statistics, which is good because it's aligned to our mission. So we talk to them, both Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Education, and we have good conversations with them, honestly, very good conversations with them. They're very interested in what we do. They want to support us. They want to, help the country to move forward, try innovative things. So it was not always easy, to be honest, but we always tried to find solutions. We always tried to understand what was blocking. Sometimes they had requirements that we thought were stupid, like you need to stand on a chair at least 30 hours a week to be a real school. And at OpenClassrooms, there's no traditional physical stuff, and there's just 1 hour of mentorship per week, but we consider that's more than enough, because you are with a private mentor. So we had to explain all of that. It took time, to be honest, but they understood, and they were okay with that. Eventually, we could have recognition for 1 of our diplomas. It worked quite well. Also, I would like to emphasize on one thing. We learned a lot from them. Because they had requirements. Some of them clearly were outdated, stupid for us, but some of them made a lot of sense. The competency approach, the fact that you need to prove that students find a job at the end makes a lot of sense. So it also inspired OpenClassrooms as a company. We took what was the best, and when it was not the best or not smart, we thought, we proposed something else collaboratively, and we managed to do it.
Very clear. How to spread your mission worldwide, considering all the different ways of educating people in different countries?
So there are many ways to do education. Everyone in the world will agree, will tell you that education is important. I've never heard about someone saying, no, education is not important, at least in public. No, everyone agrees that education is important, but every one of us has usually a different opinion on how education should be done. And when you have kids, you want the best for your kids. It's really visceral, So you want the best education. You're prepared to invest a lot in that. I don't think there is one good or best way to make education, to be honest. I think there are as many ways to make education, to create an education, as people, and we should adapt to the people, honestly. So I think we're quite good at that at OpenClassrooms. Not perfect, but quite good, because we adapt to each student with a mentor. The mentor adapts the speed, the pace. You can get a bachelor, so Bac plus 3, usually in 3 years. But at OpenClassrooms, if you go fast enough, you can do that in 1 year. And many people do that in 1 year. And yes, it's allowed by the state. Once we prove the competencies and they find a job, they find. So, there are many ways to create an education. The product, as it is today at OpenClassrooms, is not finished and will never be finished. We're still learning, we're still improving things. We now starting to have student buddies, experienced students helping new students on top of the mentors. So we have many things to try. What's interesting, I think, is that OpenClassrooms did not invent something magical. All of the pillars that make OpenClassrooms are not something really new. Mentorship has always existed, one-on-one mentorship. Online courses, always existed, diplomas. But OpenClassrooms, thanks to this 20 years story of experience, we managed to slowly understand how it worked and make a lot of sense out of it under the same roof. So you'll find a lot of companies, edtech companies, having one or two pillars. But all the pillars that make OpenClassrooms, usually not. We're quite unique in that way, because of the story, which is a bit special.
When did you do the shift towards product, which means why did you become CPO instead of being a co-CEO or CTO, that you were?
Yeah.
And when did you hire your first PM and why?
Okay.
You have 2 hours.
Yeah. With Pierre, we've always worked together, and we always had. We used to have on our backs, to work on some point, and I worked on some point, and sometimes he did the contrary, because at the beginning, when you're not so many people, you have to do everything. I mean, I was a janitor, I was cleaning the floor sometimes. Yeah, and I was a CTO, but Pierre also was a CTO at some point. So we kind of know how to do each other work, but at some point we had to make it clear. When the company grew, from 50 to 100, so it went quickly, it was really time to make it clear in front of the people, in front of external people also from the company. And one thing that's great with Pierre is that we do not have egos. We don't fight for a position. We try to do what's best for the company. And naturally, it seemed that really Pierre was best as a position for CEO, because he talks better to investors. He's more of a general manager than I am. And I'm more of the product guy, I manage the platform, but also the education system, the content. So it's special at OpenClassrooms as a CPO. And under the CPO, you have platform, basically. And you have education team, creating the content, delivering the content with mentors. So based on my experience, it seemed that CPO was the right thing to do. And it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if I have answered to all the questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, okay. So it was, it was a logical step, honestly. But we managed to do that because we always talk to each other. We've been doing so for almost 20 years. I have one piece of advice, by the way, if you ever work with a co-founder. Pierre and I have been going on a weekend trip together every 6 months for the past 7 or 8 years, maybe more. Every 6 months, from Friday to Sunday, we take the car and we go to the countryside or to the mountains. Usually we rent a nice chalet with a nice view, so you can see from a distance. It usually helps. And we recreate the world together. We think about what we have been doing over the past 6 months. How do we feel? The first question we ask each other is, how do you feel? And we always do that with sincerity, with respect out of each other. And that's a key ingredient that I would probably advise for anyone working with co-founders. So you make sure that every 6 months, when you leave the chalet, you are completely fully aligned. And sometimes over the next 6 months, it changes a bit, and then you realign. Super useful.
Okay. So just answering the question, no, won't become a mentor in British accents in OpenClassrooms. Really funny questions, whatever. You're crazy guys. In a way, having such a mission, having a North Star, what does that change on a daily basis for your teams, and especially for the product and design teams?
So the mission is the root of everything. It guides all of our decisions, and we train each new person coming at OpenClassrooms on the mission, Pierre and I. And actually, I just told you, I did that this morning. Every month, we gather all the newcomers, and for a full morning, we present OpenClassrooms' mission, the vision, the principles. And we explain with concrete examples how we can decide to do something or not to do something based on the mission. So when you have a tough question, when you don't know if you need or should do something, you should always look at the mission, like it's a person, and ask her, is it something that serves the mission? So sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So it's a good way, actually, to help steer the decision. But again, it's very broad, but it's super useful. Super, super useful.
Now, I have a lot of questions, but I won't be able to give you all. But I guess the last one would be, a lot of us don't work in a company just like yours. And how do you find meaning if you work, for example, for an e-commerce company, instead of just saying, okay, change company?
How would I personally find meaning in another type of company?
How can you find meaning if you're not in a company like yours? You have to change something, or to become a mentor in your free time?
If the question is coming from someone from the audience and it's based on themselves, I would say, yeah, probably I didn't say that, but we need mentors. Mentors are freelancers, professionals, so you can do that 1 hour a week and have one student, or 5 or 7 hours a week, you have 5 to 7 students, each one with a different hour. And you find a lot of meaning because you share with new people what you know. And not only will you get paid for that, we pay all the mentors for that. We have 1,000 mentors all over the world. You will get paid for that, but we'll also get a meaning, get motivation out from that. And I would insist, you will learn from mentoring. You will become a better product manager by teaching product management. That's what I did, for instance, for computer programming. I learned computer programming, but when I create the course, I need to become better to better explain. So it's also a way for you to train.
Again, the last question will be, apart from the lot of congratulations, a lot of people will say they learn code through the C2.0 and Swin OpenClassrooms. Do you still have that HTML book that you bought?
The what?
The book that you had when you were 13.
Oh, yeah, this one.
Yeah. Do you still have it?
Yes. It's at the entrance of OpenClassrooms. If you come to visit us, you will see that right at the entrance. It's quite lucky, honestly, because just a year and a half ago, my mother said, "Hey, do you want me to throw that away?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I thought we threw that away a long time ago, and it's in perfect shape, old book on HTML4." So I said I could have, put that preciously in a special case, but I prefer to put that in front of everyone at the entrance. So if you come at the OpenClassrooms, you will see the book, and you will see a sign that says where it all started.
Thank you, Matthieu.